But let's move on now to styling headlines. So we know here on the left in our story div, we have text formatted as an H1, but I sure don't want it to look like that. That's way too big for this design and it's wrapping in a horrible way. So let's create a new style. I'll just use the little new style button. And Dreamweaver has nicely selected H1 and story for me. So let's just keep it that way. I'm now creating a style that will only affect content like this headline if it's formatted with an H1 tag and it's contained within a block element like this div that's called story. If I click OK, now I can set the styling for this. Let's make it Georgia, and let's make it extra large. Of course, I could use a percentage here, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But for now, let's just make it Georgia extra large, click OK. And you see immediately that change is affected because it's already styled as H1 and it's already inside a div called story. Now that I see how this fits at this size, I'd like to force a line break before the word author. If I hit the return key, I'll get way more space than I want. So let me just undo that, or backspace. If I shift return, I get a BR tag or a line break without that extra space. And if you look in the code, you'll see that's the break tag as opposed to an H1 tag or a P tag, which forces more space. Now let's create a style for the H2 tag as it appears in the sidebar. So again, it's a shortcut to place your cursor inside that headline so that when we choose New Style, we've already got the text for sidebar and H2. If you wanted to be super specific, you could leave all of this and you'd essentially be defining the H2 tag to only display this way if it were inside a sidebar, inside a main, inside a container div. But all I'm worried about at the moment, and I'm going to try and keep it a little bit simpler this way, is that I'm creating a style that will define how the H2 tag is displayed when it's inside sidebar. And for this style, I'll again use the font Georgia, and this time I'll just set it to large. Click OK, and you see now we have an H1 that's extra large and an H2 that's large. But let's assume that we wanted this H2 to look different from that H2. To do that, we want to define another H2 style within this div. So with my cursor somewhere in the headline, I click New CSS Rule, and defining an H2 within story, let's make this one Georgia large, but let's also make it italic. So now you see that even though that both this text and this text are formatted with the H2 tag, they can look quite different because of the way I've defined the styles.